just broadcast with an exclusive news break. Times Now has accessed the mail trail between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio's team and Tahawwur Rana's lawyer. Even as Tahawwur Rana's lawyer back in January cited excuses like health and torture, US did not fall for them. These mails were written in January as soon as the Supreme Court in the United States first gave its order to allow the extradition of the 2611 plotter. However, all the excuses cited back then by Tahawwur Rana's lawyer did not cut any ice with the authorities in the US. Oliver Levis, on behalf of the Department of State Department there in the US, said that India complies with UN conventions against torture. We will show you the email exchange. Bhavtosh has accessed these emails. This becomes important, Bhavtosh, because now when Tahawwur Rana is facing probe, he's facing NIA grilling every day, there is a certain ecosystem that is constantly raising questions of a quote-unquote free trial. Tell us how these emails that were exchanged between Tahawwur Rana's lawyer, the excuses cited, and the authorities in the US, how did they not fall for all those claims of torture, of human rights violations, etc.? Take us through all those details.
Well, Sagarika, as far as his lawyers are concerned, Tahawwur Rana's lawyers are concerned, they tried everything possible to stop his extradition. In fact, they also cited the example of David Headley Coleman, informing the Department of State that David Headley Coleman, who faced much serious charge, he was not extradited, whereas Tahawwur Rana, who only provided logistical support, he is being extradited back to India. They also said that as far as Tahawwur Rana is concerned, if he is extradited to India, then it would be a case of double jeopardy. One more argument that they had was that he is a person of failing health and that he is suffering from Parkinson's disease. And they also, in fact, in the letter that was written by his lawyer, they also said that in India he will face torture, as well as the fact that India is not a signatory to UN Convention against torture. Now, these were the arguments in the two-page letter that was sent by his lawyer to the Department of State. Now, this was broadly sent by them. This was just after the Supreme Court, the first order of the Supreme Court, in which the court said that there is enough evidence against Tahawwur Rana and that he should be extradited back to India so that he faces trial in 2611.
All right, so we are going to take you through those mails as well. My colleague will be joining us from the newsroom to read out those mails and to show you what exactly happened. But once again, let's take our viewers through what exactly was said. There was an attempt made by Tahawwur Rana's lawyers that to claim that he shouldn't be extradited by citing, how reports on human rights violations in India, to cite all the more reasons to play the Muslim card as well, which was completely rejected. A response also came in from authorities in the US that India complies to conventions. So all those stunts and attempts that were made back then in January, all those were rejected. And this should be a wake-up call for doubters who are even now raising questions. In the next exclusive news break, we will also tell you about that 20-hour-long flight. I want our colleague Bhavtosh to stay with us, but let me go across to Pratibha, who's joining us from the newsroom. Pratibha, take us through these emails that we've accessed.
Well, Sagarika, these are emails that have exclusively been accessed by senior news editor Bhavtosh Singh, and it puts into perspective what Tahawwur Rana had been trying time and again desperately not to be taken to India. And this is the email that had been written to Secretary Rubio. Here as well, it goes on to say that he should not be taken to India. I'm writing to ask you to deny the surrender of my client, Dr. Tahawwur Rana, for extradition to India. It goes on to mention various reasons while going on to say that he will die in India. This is what it says. With the issuance of this warrant, Mr. Rana may be surrendered to Indian authorities anytime, so we would need to receive any information possible. In fact, in this letter that was written, it says in details how his health has been deteriorating. But look at what was the response of the United States. Here is the response that came in, and it says, I'm writing in relation to the Secretary of State's determination of whether to extradite Tahawwur Rana to India. Following a review of all pertinent information, including the materials and filings submitted in the litigation in the case, as well as the submissions made, the Secretary of State decided to authorize the surrender to India. And it goes on to say, a decision to surrender a fugitive who has made a claim of torture invoking the convention reflects either a determination that the claim torture does not meet the definition, and then the details of it have been given, or a determination that the fugitive is not more likely than not to be tortured if extradited. Claims that do not come within the scope of the convention may also raise significant humanitarian issues. The department carefully and thoroughly considers both claims cognizable under the convention and such humanitarian claims, and takes appropriate steps, which may include obtaining information or commitments from the requesting government to address the identified concerns. So this is the response that had come in from the United States on the same.
Absolutely. And now Tahawwur Rana is in India. He's facing his fate. He's been going through intense rounds of questioning and grilling by NIA officials. Now let's move on to the other aspect of this exclusive news break. We are now going to decode the 20-hour-long flight. What happened when Tahawwur Rana was in fact taken on board that flight? What happened throughout the journey? Who was present there? What happened when Tahawwur Rana set foot on Indian soil? What happened in court? What did he tell his lawyers? Did he speak to the NIA team? These are the details that we've also accessed. We have both Pradeep Datta and Bhavtosh joining us. What we know is that when Tahawwur Rana was taken on board that flight, when he was handed over by US authorities, Bhavtosh, he did have shackles on. But the minute he was, in fact, they landed in India, the shackles were taken off. There was, in fact, he did not talk to anyone on board that flight. But when he reached the court, who did he speak to? What did he say? What was his demeanor? What are sources telling you, Bhavtosh? Get us through all those aspects.
Sagrika, as far as Tahawwur Rana is concerned, he boarded the Gulf Stream, which was in fact loaned to India by US authorities. And subsequently, in the 20-hour flight, he didn't speak to anyone. He knew that he was coming to India to face trial in 2611, as he showed the mail trail, that his lawyers tried the best not for him to come to India. And then subsequently, when he landed, there were at least 500 police personnel, officers from Intelligence Bureau as well as from RNDW waiting for him. And then he was kept in a special jail van, which had a cell. Within jail van, there was a cell in which there were at least 5 to 10 commandos drawn from NSG, which were there to provide him security. Then from 8:30 onwards, 8:30 p.m. onwards, he was moved from that jail van, and then subsequently taken to Patiala House Court, where there were no reporters. They were all, in fact, taken out from Patiala House Court. In the hearing, when the hearing actually started, he signed the Wakalatnama. He heard the entire hearing, which was in English for his own benefit. There was nothing was said in Hindi. Generally, in Delhi court, there were words that were exchanged in Hindi. When the order came out, he in fact asked his lawyer where he was being taken. His lawyer told him that he's being taken to NIA headquarters, but at no point of time he flinched or he showed any signs of nervousness. In fact, in between, he spoke to the NIA officials as well as to the Delhi police.
All right, so no signs of tension, anxiety or nervousness. He spoke to his lawyers in court. He asked them some questions. Pradeep's also joining us. Pradeep, you've also been tracking, this case very closely. We are also reading reports about how Tahawwur Rana asked one question to his lawyers about, for how long or for how many will go on. A response that came in from the other side left him shocked. Can you shine more light on that aspect of what exactly happened when he asked that question?
See, one thing is quite clear, because what Tahawwur Rana, before coming out to this place through his advocate, he was trying to claim that he will be tortured and he will not be able to survive in the Indian custody because he's suffering from a serious ailment. But now if you look at his 20-hour journey and the way he's communicating and asking questions, that clearly indicates a kind of a freedom even to the person of his stature who has got involved in 2611 attack with hands soaked in blood and responsible for killing of 166 people. Even he is being given the chance to ask question, and he was being given chance to defend himself. That's one of the reasons that Wakalatnama was signed. He said that how long it will take, because he has been made clear that how long he will keep on answering questions, because actually India doesn't want to waste time, because already it had been more than 16 years. So they do not want to waste time. They want to fast track this trial. That's one of the reasons that from day one we have seen that ever since he had been in NIA custody, they had been grilling him, asking him different questions. And also he was at liberty to ask for, he asked for the holy book which was provided to him, that clearly indicates that there is a complete liberty to follow your faith also. But yes, certain things, the procedure that were followed, because he's on the right now the suicide watch list. That's one of the reasons that he had been given.
Pradeep, I want you to stay with us, because my colleague Pratibha is also with us, and she's going to take us through the other aspect of the emails that were exchanged between Tahawwur Rana's lawyers and the authorities in the US. How every stunt was in fact totally rejected. Pratibha, take us through the latest.
So trying every trick in the book, and also trying to play the victim card, saying that I'm a Pakistani Muslim who could be tortured in India. That's the claim that he had made, Sagrika. And here's where it says the State Department, in the details that have been mentioned, apart from his failing health, it goes on to mention the State Department's annual human rights reports have repeatedly decried India's record of extrajudicial violence, especially against Muslims. For example, the 2023 Human Rights Report issued in April 2024, and it mentions some parts of that report. It goes on to say the 2023 Human Rights Watch World Report for India makes similar findings. It has declared that the BJP-led government continued its systematic discrimination and stigmatization of religious and other minorities, particularly Muslims, a finding of particular significance because Dr. Rana is Muslim. That's what it goes on to say. The HRW World Report also found that allegations of torture and extrajudicial killings persisted. Then it again goes on to say that 2023 State Department Human Rights Report and 23 and 24 Human Rights Watch World reports also echo the previous annual report. So saying that Dr. Rana will face torture if surrendered, that's a finding that has been mentioned here.
Absolutely. So every attempt that was made to stall the extradition obviously rejected, failed, and now it should also serve as a reminder to all those who are raising doubts over how India will go on with this investigation. Because remember, India has promised that the victims of 26/11 will get justice, and the perpetrators, the plotters, will meet their fate, will also face the wrath and the might of the Indian law. Thank you, Bhavtosh. Thank you, Pradeep. And thank you, Pratibha, for joining us with those exclusive details. Let's now shift our focus